Hey, I want to share some video and pictures with you, some reflections on Israel. Israel's been in the news for about a year. I mean, they've been in the news for a long time. I mean, they've been around for a very, very long time, not necessarily in their present location, but in the Old Testament and in the first century of the New Testament, they were certainly there and then have been a people on the move. But when you look at the Bible, it calls them God's chosen people. And with my understanding of end times events, God's not finished with them yet. And so Israel has been in the news a lot here recently with their attack that happened on them, an unprovoked attack by Hamas. And they are now being maligned not only by their enemies, but also by their quote unquote friends. And so my mind is just going back to the time whenever Kim and I got to go to Israel, and I realized this is not just another country. It's the place where most of the Bible events took place. I mean, there were a few occasions when a prophet was over in Babylon and he was speaking. There were some other situations where Paul was maybe writing from Rome or some other locations. But by and large, the events of the Bible took place in Israel. And in fact, that's where Jesus walked. So as Israel is being maligned, I want to take some time to show you the beauty of this place and why this location is so special. Kim and I got to take a trip to Israel in the summer of 2018, and it was a very gracious couple in the church that I pastored at that time that made it happen. I mean, they spent quite a few $1,000s to enable us to go on this, and Kim and I will be forever indebted to them and grateful to them for this trip because it really did open up my eyes to see some wonderful, wonderful things and to see so many of the Bible stories in a new and a fresh way. And I'm going to try to do that in these presentations that hopefully you find enjoyable. I did take a lot of pictures and videos while I was there in Israel. We were there from, I believe we arrived on a Sunday and then we left on a Sunday. And so every single day I was taking pictures and videos, and even I had a paper journal with me because I knew that cell service would be in and out. And so I took a lot of notes, and I want to share many of those pictures and journal entries and videos with you, in hopes that you'll be able to see the land of Jesus, the land where Jesus walked, in a whole new light, like I did. You're not over there, but maybe this can help you to experience it a little bit. And maybe even this could motivate you to pray even more passionately for the peace of Israel and Jerusalem, like Psalm 122, verse 6 calls us to do. And by the way, this picture that you're looking at, the very first picture, I took this on Masada as I was overlooking the Dead Sea. You can see the Dead Sea in the background. I was looking east to west toward the Dead Sea. Actually, I was looking west to the east toward the Dead Sea. And I'm going to show you more pictures of our trip up to Masada whenever I get to Saturday. This first video is going to be the first couple of trips, the first couple of days that it took us to get over to Israel. And every video is going to be a day that we spent over there. I'm going to take you through that day with pictures and videos and some reflections. But when we get to Saturday, the Sabbath, that's when we went to Masada. I'm going to show you some pictures. I'm even going to show you a video that I took of the cable car as it went from the base of this mountain of Masada up to the top. So that'll be pretty fun. So looking forward to this. Hope you find this enjoyable too. Kim and I got to Lexington, Kentucky on Friday night, May the 25th of 2018. And this was the day before we left. We left on a Saturday to get to Israel, and we wouldn't get there until like Sunday afternoon, I think. But Kim had called ahead and tried to get a hotel room for us to stay in Friday night so that Saturday morning we get up, go to the Bluegrass Lexington Fayette Bluegrass Airport and take off. So we had a Hyatt card. I'm just going to be brief with this. I don't want to bore you with the details, but it was special to us. We had a Hyatt card from when we went to Washington, D.C. 2 years earlier in 2016. Kim was got a 1-week fellowship at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., and so they paid her pretty well for that week. And we took the money that she got from that week to stay at a Hyatt place just a few blocks off of the National Mall. It just made it convenient to where we just walked everywhere we went. But we used our Hyatt Place credit card. We got one and then used it to get points. And so that, we've been using points on that. And Kim was going to try to use her points on this trip. But they said that the Hyatt Place was booked up. But then they suggested that we could stay at the Hyatt Regency and that we had enough points on our card to stay there for free. Well, Kim and I looked at each other and it's like, God is so good, because we used to live in Lexington, Kentucky. When we got married, we lived in Lexington, Kentucky. We got married there. And within our first year of marriage, we went to a family life conference, a weekend to remember, and it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal, and we just wanted to start our marriage off right. We wanted to go to a Christian marriage conference, and it was at the Hyatt Regency at this hotel. Now, I didn't take this picture. I snagged this off the internet, but this is the Hyatt Regency. The only thing is we couldn't afford to stay at the Hyatt Regency. We went to the conference, but we went home each night and just felt like we missed an opportunity to make the most of this. Well, fast forward 19 years to our trip going to Israel, and this is the very hotel that we were able to get in for free. And so Kim and I just felt like we were on cloud nine, that God was already showing off, demonstrating that he was going to take care of us. And an added bonus is we were able to look out of our room and see Rupp Arena. For every person from Kentucky, you know how special that is. So we stayed at this place. And then we got up the next morning and headed to the Lexington Bluegrass Airport to hop on the plane. And from there, we flew to Atlanta. The flight, and I know this picture is not a flattering picture of me, but hey, I like it of Kim, so there you go. We got on the airplane and flew down to Atlanta, and I think that flight was about an hour and a half. And we got down to Atlanta, and then we had a little bit of a layover, and then we hopped on an airplane with Air France. That was the name of the flight. So we hopped on Air France, and that was a massive, massive airplane. And we were headed to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. This is aboard the Air France flight. It had 5 seats in the middle, 3 on either side. It was massive. This was just our section, and we were all the way back in the back. I think I remember 3 or 4 sections up in front of us. This was a huge, huge airplane. And we were going to be on this airplane for about 8.5 hours, if I remember correctly. 8.5 hours. We left Saturday afternoon, about 3 o'clock sometime, and we were on a flight overnight. We saw the sun go down. We saw the sun come back up on this airplane. It was crowded. It was hot. It was noisy, but it was getting us to the place that we really wanted to be. This is a little video I'll show you, just a short little video of us taking off from Atlanta. Maybe it's boring. I'm geeky, I know, but this was pretty fun, and I was just excited about getting on the plane, taking off, heading to Israel. So this is us taking off from Atlanta on this massive airplane. It took a long time to get it up the runway. Over at Kim, just kind of joking with her. She's a little bit nervous. She's not nervous now, but she used to be a little bit nervous taking off on airplanes. And so I was joking with her a little bit. And we're off. On our way to Paris. She's got her eyes closed, pinching my arm. All right, we're off to Paris. Okay, so So let's move to the next one. This is a picture. I'm not sure when I took it, but it was sometime during our flight while we were still going over the continental United States. And we were flying along the eastern seaboard, so almost certainly this cloud cover would have been over the Atlantic. Ken was just looking out at some point along the trip up along the eastern seaboard. We were actually fed. I think it took 3 hours or so to get up to Maine and Nova Scotia and to take off. And so they had already given us our supper. I'm not sure what this was. I think it was French food because after all, we were on Air France. But the chicken was good, and I think rice, and I'm not sure what the other was, but you know what? If you didn't like it, tough luck, because there's nowhere else to go. You're just in your seat for 8.5 hours, and this was supper. But actually, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. This was a very long flight, as I said. It was very tight. I don't know that I've been on a plane where my knees were actually hitting the seat in front of me. But that's what was going on here, and it was hot, it was bumpy, it was noisy, it was overnight. There's no way we were able to get a good night's sleep. And so we saw the sun go down, we saw the sun come back up, and we were just getting tired. Fortunately, we were able to watch movies, and one of them was Indiana Jones. I got to watch that and just pass the time. This is a picture I took on the screen in front of me that was on the back of the seat in front of me, and it shows that we've still got 5.5 hours left to our destination in Paris, and we were about to head out over the ocean. So, if something happened to the airplane, tough luck, because you don't have any place to land. But we were excited. We were excited, and we were getting closer and closer to Israel. Here, I took this picture as we were flying over France, as we were coming in for a landing at the Charles de Gaulle airport. And as we got closer to Paris, and as you saw less and less countryside and more suburbia and the cities, we were actually able to see the Eiffel Tower way off in a distance, but I couldn't take a picture. It would have been too pixelated. It was just too far away, but we would love to come back and visit this city someday, in our dreams. But, hey, you got to have dreams. We got to Paris, landed at the airport. This is not the plane that we flew from Atlanta to Paris. This is the plane that we were going to get on that would take us from Paris to Tel Aviv. And that was still about a 4-hour flight. We had a little bit of a layover. We were buzzed because we were tired. I forget what time we landed here. I don't think I put that in my notes, what time we landed here. But we got here, I think it was something like at 1 a.m. Eastern time. But it was no. Actually, let me see if I can find this. Let me see if I can find this really quick. I did not put this in my notes. Oh, actually, we landed at 1:19 a.m. Eastern time, so it was in the middle of the night. Our bodies were telling us it was the middle of the night, but it was 7:19 a.m. Paris time. So, all of them were waking up. The new day was started. They all had a good night's sleep, but here we were in the middle of the night with the sun shining. It just didn't make sense. One of the silly things we did, or at least I did, again, I'm kind of geeky and I get a little messed up, I guess, whenever I'm tired. But I just thought it would be so fun to get some French fries in France. And so we looked for the McDonald's, couldn't find it. But anyway, we did that. And then we boarded the plane and we were headed to Israel. This is inside the Israel airport, the Tel Aviv airport. We landed in Tel Aviv at 9:08 Eastern Standard Time. So we had flown from like 3 o'clock, I think, from Atlanta the previous day to now it's 9:08 in the morning our time, but it was 4:08 Tel Aviv time. So they were in their afternoon, they were, ready to have their supper. And here it was, our bodies were telling us, it's time for breakfast, or, we just had eaten breakfast. We were buzzed, just from just not getting much sleep. But we were on adrenaline high because we were in Israel. We were in Israel. and we were excited. One of the pieces of advice I'll just give you, on one of the things we learned, we had heard this beforehand, but we discovered that this is absolutely true. When you're traveling to a different time zone, and I believe Tel Aviv is 8 hours different from our own time zone that we were in. When you're traveling to a different time zone, you may be tempted to take a nap. Don't do it. Don't do it. Force yourself to immediately get on the new schedule. Don't take a nap. If it's in the afternoon, then you're going to wait until it's time to go to bed and you're exhausted. You're having to hold your eyelids open, but don't go to bed until nighttime. Just get on the new schedule that you're on. And one of the things that we realize is you can get over jet lag a lot more quickly when you do that. After getting our baggage and going through security and customs, we saw someone holding up a Gate 1 poster. Gate 1 was the one that was our tour guide. The tour guide's industry. She was a part of that. Mika was a part of that, Gate 1. And so we saw that. And so we got our baggage. We went through security and customs, and then we went over to them, and they spoke wonderful English. They took us out to a cab driver who did not speak English, and told him where to take us. So I snagged this picture from Google Maps. You can see there in the picture Tel Aviv, where we are. If you look, I don't know if you can see the arrow I have on the screen. I'm circling Tel Aviv right now. But Jerusalem is, you can probably see that a little bit, the lower half of the picture, Jerusalem. Tel Aviv is northwest of Jerusalem, and it's on the Mediterranean Sea. And in fact, if you look south of Tel Aviv, you can actually see Gaza. The name Gaza is sticking out into the blue, into the Mediterranean. That's the Gaza Strip. In fact, if you look at the very bottom city on the bottom left, you can actually see Rafah, where much of the events of Israel going in to weed out Hamas is happening even right now. And so that's where we were in Tel Aviv. Go to the next slide. I took this picture from the back seat of our cab as we were going from the airport to our hotel, and our cab driver was driving us. Kim and I were in the back seat. Tel Aviv is a bustling, growing city. Lots of stuff going on, lots of new stuff. It's not, third world at all. It is a bustling city, and just impressive. Here's a video that I took, just a short little video, because I thought videos would capture the moments a little bit better than pictures. This is a video I took of our cab driver who was just getting us from our location to our hotel. He drove us 17 miles from the airport to the hotel, and yeah, this is a little bit about what it was like. Yeah, so we got to listen to some cultural music for however long that took us. I think it was about a 35-minute trip, something like that. But that guy had it under control. He didn't speak English, but man, he owned his lane, and he got us there safe. Now I snagged this picture from Google Maps. I'm going to do this a few times because there are some pictures that I just wish I had taken and I didn't take. And so I got this from Google Maps. But this is the Tal Hotel, the Tal by the beach, or the Tal by the sea, Tal. And this is where we spent our first night. We only spent one night here, but this is when we were in Tel Aviv. We spent it at the Tal Hotel. So Kim and I arrived at this hotel, and we went in, we got our room, put our stuff in our room, and then we went up to the top floor. We went actually out onto the roof, and I took this picture from the roof. Took this picture while we were up there, looking out to the Mediterranean Sea. It was just so beautiful and so peaceful up there. I was just thinking how differently it would look, when missiles and everything else are coming in. But on this day, it was so peaceful. We did eat supper at about 7:30 p.m. Israel time, and then met with our group and our tour guide, a lady named Mika, at 8 p.m. for our orientation. And, I could tell that everybody in the room was just exhausted after their long trips. I don't know where they were all coming from, but, all of them, I believe, were from the United States. So everybody was exhausted. And so Mika just got us together, told us a little bit about what we were going to be doing. After, I forget how long the meeting lasted, she sympathetically sent us off to our rooms and said, hey, get a good night's sleep. We're going to hit the ground running tomorrow. While we were up on the roof, I aimed my camera to the left and looked south. You can see Tel Aviv is not a small place. It is massive. It's huge. And you can see the Mediterranean Sea off to the right. Now, one of the things that if you were to look at a map of Tel Aviv, you would see that there is a place to the south of Tel Aviv called Jaffa. That place used to be called Joppa. And that's where Jonah got on the boat and headed out into the ocean, into the Mediterranean Sea, headed away from God's will and headed away from Nineveh. South of here is where that almost certainly took place. Jaffa is also the place where Peter, in Acts chapter 10, I believe, went up on the roof as he was waiting for supper and went up on the roof. Maybe on the roof he was able to see the Mediterranean Sea like we were able to see the sea. And it was up on that roof that he had the vision of the blanket with all of those unclean animals coming down and God saying, Peter, kill and eat. And God was in doing that, not only trying to break him away from the Old Testament restrictions and saying, now you are in the New Testament and a new covenant. But even more importantly, God was telling him, what I'm calling clean, don't you call unclean. And specifically, that was related to the view of Gentiles being viewed as unclean by Jews. And God was had Cornelius, a Jew, or actually a Gentile, sending some of his servants down to get Peter in Joppa to bring him up so that he could share the gospel. And Peter, a Jew, would have thought that they were unclean, but God in this place gave him that vision and said, hey, you know what? Gentiles are not unclean. You go to his place, you share the gospel, because I'm going to do a great thing among the Gentiles. And aren't you and I, probably you're a Gentile like I am, aren't we so grateful that Jew, Peter, had that vision and responded to it in obedience? We've got the gospel now, as the Jews also do. And this is also from the top of the hotel. This is looking north. I'm telling you, Tel Aviv is massive. And then this is the final video, the final frame that I'll show you. This is up there. Kim and I went back up onto the top after our meeting and just wanted to see the sunset over the Mediterranean Sea. And so I took this video while we were up there. It's a huge city. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Kim and I on this day were headed to bed, and the next day we would wake up and we would go up to Caesarea Maritima. I think we went to Nazareth. We went to ended up at the Sea of Galilee. And so tomorrow I'm going to be showing you, well, actually the next day. So the next video, I'm going to show you the next day. I'm going to show you what we did on Monday. So I hope this has been enjoyable for you, and hope, that this enables you to feel like, even though probably you haven't been to Israel, that maybe you get a little bit of the experience of what it's like to be over there.